Welcome once again for another podcast with the National Cowboy Museum. And it's rodeo weekend. This is one of the favorite times of the year around here. And the Rodeo Historical Society folks have all gathered. And tonight we start the award ceremonies when we'll give out the Ben Johnson Award and Tad Lucas Award and induct a number of people into the Rodeo Hall of Fame. Bill, tonight you'll be receiving the Ben Johnson Memorial Award this year at the Rodeo Historical Society's Champions Dinner. You're in good company considering the recipients of the award in the past. What does this award mean to you?
Well, you know, it's an honor to be selected. You have to be nominated and then you have to be elected, and it's an unexpected honor.
I remember the 60s and 70s in one way, and I know you remember the rodeo world of the 60s and 70s, you know. It's a tough life, you know, like maybe over 300 days a year on the road in your pursuit, of course, of your 3 world championships in saddle bronc riding. How has the rodeo world changed, you think, in the last 40 years?
Well, the thing that's changed is the money. That's what's changed. I mean, there wasn't money in it when we did it. For instance, I set a record for earnings in the saddle bronc riding for one year in 1971 of $26,000 that you win that one night at the NFR this year. And that was a whole year's winnings. And so the money's vastly improved, and it's more of a business now. I rodeoed because I love to ride bucking horses. And these guys rodeo for a living. That's the difference.
You've said that the 6-time Bucking Horse of the Year, Descent, holds a special place in your heart. Why was that bronc special to you?
Descent was the greatest bucking horse I ever saw by a large margin. Over the years, I first saw him in 1963, and the last time I rode him was like in 76 or 7 at Nampa, Idaho. And he, without a doubt, was the best horse I ever saw. He was true and honest, rank, but he wasn't unrideable, which none of them are. But I had him 9 times, bucked me off 4 times, and I rode him 5 times. The last time he was real old and about ready to be retired, so it wasn't a fair fight. But the other times, we about fought to a draw. And my hat's off to him.
You were kind of an intellectual in the arena. You were a student of the broncs out there. You knew things about them. You kept information. How did that develop?
I think that was vastly overrated and vastly exaggerated. I loved horses, and day and night I thought about bucking horses. I knew the number and the pattern of every bucking horse that I rode, just because it was far from intellectual, because it's the only thing I knew. And I just loved them, so I paid attention, and I watched them, and I was around them. I hung out around them when in the off times, and I was down back in the pens looking at them and thinking. But that was just because I just loved them, that's all. It wasn't because I was trying to figure out and get a step on anybody or anything. I just wanted to be around them and understand them.
Having grown up around Red Lodge, Montana, you had a life that revolved around horses. Yet you often said, whatever I learned about horsemanship, I learned from Ray Hunt. Why?
I would say I could ride. I could stay on a horse. And I wasn't afraid of horses. And when I was growing up, all the horses I rode were horses that someone else didn't want to ride. And if a horse won, I didn't care what they did. And if they wanted to buck, that's just practice for me. So I never bothered with trying to get along with them and gentle them and teach them. I just rode them. And if they wanted to buck, I'd practice. I thought I could ride anything. A lot of times I didn't, but I thought they were just lucky when they bucked me off. I thought when I was outside in the hills, I thought I could ride any horse. It wasn't that I could, it's just that I thought I could. So I really wasn't learning how to get along with a horse, and And until I got older and started to understand how much there was that a horse had to offer that I was missing, so I started searching for somebody to help me. And my friend Tom Marvel, who's a great horseman in his own right, told me to go look up a fella named Ray Hunt that was starting to do clinics around the country, and he was a real horseman and he could teach me some things. And I went, and I was about 35 years old. I went to him first time, and I was at the peak of my career, and I was still riding broncs, and everybody in that country knew me. And Ray was rather intimidated by me, and he just kind of stood back and let me make my own mistakes, and frustrated me because I was wanting help, and he was working with everybody, but he was just kind of not paying much attention to me. And I said, man, I need to learn. And I finally went to him and had a talk with him, and told him that I didn't know anything and I was wanting to learn. And that worked, and he started helping me. But he thought I was just there to show him up, and because in his early days of clinics, he dealt with that a lot. People just trying to show him how much they knew and how much he didn't know. And I had a completely different attitude. I knew I didn't know anything, and I wanted to learn, and I had to turn everything around. Everything I was doing was wrong, so I had to turn it around and do 180 on about every habit I had. But it fit what I wanted to do, and it fit my horses and so it really, really worked for me.
Later, you began to conduct your own colt starting and horsemanship clinics. Was that a natural departure from the rodeo world?
I have a friend up in Kansas, Dwayne Walker is his name. He's a horse breeder, a quarter horse breeder, and a prominent one. And he'd sold this horse to some people, and he was going to have a Ray Hunt clinic at his place there in Canton, Kansas. And they were having trouble with this colt, and I never have ever rode outside horses for people. I just didn't want to do that. But he talked me into taking this colt because they said it was an outlaw and it'd hurt you and it was this and that. And so I had him bring the colt up there, and I worked with it and rode it. And he come up to see how I was getting along with it, and I got on her and rode her around, showed him what I had her doing, and he said, well, why don't we just have you come and do a clinic and show us what you done with that mare? And that's how it started.
With your wife, Carol, you've established a very successful horse operation there at Thermopolis, Wyoming. The Wyoming Quarter Horse Ranch. I believe this is the 29th year you've held a very popular broke gelding sale at your ranch.
Back when Carol and I were first married, we moved to Thermopolis, Wyoming. We leased a little place. We had a few mares and a stud, and we raised some horses, and we would take our colts and horses to these local sales and try to sell them. And I didn't really like the way they ran their sales, and there was a lot of horse trading and a lot of the stuff that goes on at horse sales. And we decided that we could do a sale and run it the way we thought one should be run, which was on the up and up, and no shenanigans, and guaranteeing standing behind our horses and stuff, and had no idea what we were getting into. Had we known what it involved, we might not have ever done it, but we just bailed in like we done everything else and was naive, and we had some help and some luck again, and it kind of took off, and it's just evolved from there.
Bill, I sure appreciate you taking some time out of this busy weekend. But it sure is neat to see all the friends and family and even fellow competitors that have shown up to see and supporting you tonight as you receive this award. But of course, we also really appreciate you viewers that if you come back to watch another podcast with the National Cowboy Museum. From everyone here at the museum, see you next time.
This podcast is a companion to the museum's membership publication, Persimmon Hill Magazine. It's a great resource for keeping in touch with our Western heritage. visit nationalcowboymuseum.org for details. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time